Hey kids, it's Ms. Lapper again with another installment of Flowers for Algernon. We're going to start on page 24. Once again, I'm going to go for about 20-25 minutes, and then I'll stop, and then I will post which pages I end on. Here we go. March 24. Professor Niemer and Dr. Strauss came to my room tonight to see why I don't like to come into the lab like I'm supposed to. I told them I don't want to race with Algernon no more. Professor Niemer said I don't have to for a while, but I should come in anyway. He brought me a present, only it wasn't a present, but just for lend. He said it's a teaching machine that works like TV. It talks and makes pictures, and I got to turn it on before I go to sleep. I said, "You're kidding. Why should I learn on a TV before I go to sleep?" But Professor Niemer said if I want to get smart, I got to do what he says. So I told him I didn't think I was going to get smart anyway. Then Dr. Strauss came over and put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Charlie, you don't know it yet, but you're getting smarter all the time. You won't notice it for a while, like you don't notice how the hour hand on a clock moves. That's the way it is with the changes in you. They are happening so slow you can't tell. But we can follow it from the tests and the way you act and talk and your progress reports." He said, "Charlie, you've got to have faith in us and in yourself. We can't be sure it will be permanent, but we are confident that soon you're going to be a very intelligent young man." So as I'm reading, I can tell already that Charlie's spelling has improved. He still has spelling errors, but it has improved a lot. It's easier to read because his sentences flow a little better. I said okay, and Professor Niemer showed me how to work the TV that really wasn't a TV. I asked him did it do. First he looked sore again because I asked him to explain me, and he said I should just do what he told me. But Dr. Strauss said he should explain it to me because I was beginning to question authority. I don't know what that means, but Professor Niemer looked like he was going to bite his lip off. Then he explained to me very slow that the machine did lots of things to my mind. Some things it did just before I fall asleep, like teach me things when I'm very sleepy. And a little while after I start to fall asleep, I still hear the talk, even if I don't see the pictures anymore. Other thing is, at night, it's supposed to make me have dreams and remember things that happened a long time ago when I was a very little kid. It's scary. Oh yes, I forgot. I asked Professor Niemer when I can go back to Miss Kinnean's class at the Adult Center, and he said soon Miss Kinnean will come to the college testing center to teach me special. I am glad about that. I didn't see her so much since the operation, but she is nice. So one thing I want to point out, Dr. Niemer says that Charlie is beginning to question authority. That means that for me, I'm the authority, I'm the teacher. If I tell you to do something and you ask me why, that's questioning authority. If you say, okay, I'll do it, then that's not questioning. And usually Charlie would not question authority. But now that he has a little bit of intelligence and he doesn't quite trust what Professor Niemer is telling him to do, he's going to question him. Whereas before, he didn't really have that kind of intellect, so he would just do whatever he was told. But now that he has a little bit of intelligence, he can ask questions like, why should I do that? So that's another sign of progress. March 25. That crazy TV kept me up all night. How can I sleep with something yelling crazy things all night in my ears? And the nutty pictures, wow. I don't know what it says when I'm up to. So how am I going to know when I'm sleeping? I asked Bert about it, and he says it's okay. He says my brains are learning just before I got to sleep, and that will help me when Miss Kinnean starts my lessons at the testing center. The testing center isn't a hospital for animals like I thought before. It's a laboratory for science. I don't know what science is, except I'm helping it with this experiment. Anyway, I don't know about that TV. I think it's crazy. If you can get smart when you're going to sleep, why do people go to school? I don't think that thing will work. I used to watch The Late Show and The Late Late Show on TV all the time before I went to sleep, and it never made me smart. Maybe only certain movies will make you smart. Maybe like quiz shows. March 26. How am I going to work in the daytime if that thing keeps waking me up at night? In the middle of the night, I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep because it kept saying, remember, remember, remember. So I think I remembered something. I don't remember exactly, but it was about Miss Kinnean and the school where I learned about reading and how I went there. A long time ago, once I asked Joe Carp how he learned to read and if I could learn to read too. He laughed like he always done when I say something funny, and he says to me, Charlie, why waste your time? They can't put any brains in where there ain't none. But Fanny Burden heard me, and she asked her cousin, who was a college student at Beekman, and she told me about the Adult Center for Retarded People at the Beekman College. She wrote the name down on a paper, and Frank laughed and said, don't go getting so educated that you won't talk to your old friends. I said, don't worry, I will always keep my old friends, even if I can read and write. He was laughing, and Joe Carp was laughing, but Gimpy came in and told them to get back to making rolls. They are all good friends to me. After work, I walked over 6 blocks to the school, and I was scared. I was so happy I was going to learn to read that I bought a newspaper to take home with me and read after I learned. When I got there, it was a big, long hall with lots of people. I got scared of saying something wrong to somebody, so I started to go home. But I don't know why I turned around and went inside again. I waited until most everybody went away, except some people going over a big time clock like the one we have at the bakery. And I asked the lady if I could learn to read and write, because I wanted to read all the things in the newspaper, and I showed it to her. She was Miss Kinnian, but I didn't know it then. She said, if you come back tomorrow and register, I will start to teach you how to read. But you got to understand it will take a long time, maybe years to learn to read. I told her I didn't know it took so long, but I wanted to learn anyway because I made believe a lot of times. I mean, I pretend to people I know how to read, but it ain't true and I want to learn. She shaked my hand and said, glad to meet you, Mr. Gordon. I will be your teacher. My name is Miss Kinnian. So that's where I went to learn, and that's how I met Miss Kinnian. Thinking and remembering is hard, and now I don't sleep so good anymore. That TV is too loud. So remember in the beginning of the story, Charlie didn't really remember much about his childhood, how he got to the bakery, a lot of his past. And now he just gave us a full memory of how he met Miss Kinnian. It was a long memory. And so that was recovered with this TV going on. And the TV is kind of giving him subliminal messages as he's sleeping. And it's helping him to remember things about his past. But he doesn't understand what the TV is doing, but it is working. March 27. Now that I'm starting to have those dreams and remembering Professor Niemer says I got to go to therapy sessions with Dr. Strauss. He says therapy sessions is like when you feel bad, you talk to make it better. I told him I don't feel bad and I do plenty of talking all day, so why do I have to go to therapy? But he got sore and says I got to go anyway. What therapy is that I got to lay down on a couch and Dr. Strauss sits in a chair near me and I talk about anything that comes into my head. For a long time, I didn't say nothing because I couldn't think of nothing to say. Then I told him about the bakery and the things they do there. But it's silly for me to go to his office and lay down on the couch to talk because I write it down in the progress reports anyway and he could read it. So today, I brought the progress report with me and I told him maybe he could just read it and I could take a nap on the couch. I was very tired because that TV kept me up all night. But he said, no, it don't work that way. I got to talk. So I talked, but then I fell asleep on the couch anyway, right in the middle. March 28, I got a headache. It's not from that TV this time. Dr. Strauss showed me how to keep the TV turned low, so now I can sleep. I don't hear a thing, and I still don't understand what it says. A few times I play it over in the morning to find out what I learned before I fell asleep, and while I was sleeping, I don't even know the words. Maybe it's another language or something, but most times it sounds American, but it talks too fast. I asked Dr. Strauss, what good is it to get smart in my sleep if I want to be smart when I'm awake? He says it's the same thing, and I have 2 minds. There's the subconscious and the conscious. That's how you spell it. So he correctly spelled those 2 words in his journal. And one don't tell the other thing what it's doing. They don't even talk to each other. That's why I dream. And boy, I have been having crazy dreams. Wow. Ever since that night TV, the late movie show. I forgot to ask Dr. Strauss if it was only me or if it was everybody has 2 minds like that. I just looked up the word in the dictionary Dr. Strauss gave me. Subconscious, adjective, of the nature of mental operations yet not present in consciousness, as subconscious conflict of desires. There's more, but I still don't know what it means. This isn't a very good dictionary for dumb people like me. So, Charlie did not know what the word subconscious meant, so he looked it up in a dictionary. That is not something that we've ever seen him do before. Now, he didn't understand the definition, but he looked in the dictionary and he copied the word and the definition exactly in his journal. So this is showing a desire to learn, a curiosity that he didn't have before. So now when he hears something, he wants to really know what the true meaning is, so he will look it up in a dictionary, just like today you guys would look it up on Google if you were curious. Anyway, the headache is from the party. Joe Carp and Frank Riley invited me to go with them after work to Halloran's bar for some drinks. I don't like to drink whiskey, but they said we will have lots of fun. I had a good time. We played games with me doing a dance on the top of the bar with a lampshade on my head and everyone laughing. Then Joe Carp said I should show the girls how I mop out the toilet in the bakery, and he got me a mop. Not nice, friends. I showed them and everyone laughed when I told them that Mr. Donner said I was the best janitor and errand boy he ever had because I like my job and do it good and never come late or miss a day except for my operation. I said Miss Kinnian always told me, Charlie, be proud of the work you do because you do your job good. Everybody laughed, and Frank said that Miss Kinnian must be some cracked up piece if she goes for Charlie. And Joe said, hey, Charlie, are you making out with her? I said I didn't know what that means. They gave me lots of drinks, and Joe said Charlie is a card when he's potted. I think that means they like me. We have some good times, but I can't wait to be smart like my best friends Joe Carp and Frank Riley. I don't remember how the party was over, but they asked me to go around the corner to see if it was raining, and when I came back, there was no one there. Maybe they went to find me. I looked for them all over till it was late, but I got lost, and I felt bad at myself for getting lost because I bet Algernon could go up and down those streets 100 times and not get lost like I did. Then I don't remember so good, but Mrs. Flynn says a nice policeman brought me back home. So his co-workers take him to a bar, get him drunk, and tell him to show the girls in the bar how he cleans the toilet. So he cleaned the toilet at the bar with a mop. And then they ditched him, and he got lost and couldn't find his way home because he had been drinking. So a policeman took him home. This is not something you do to any of your friends, let alone someone with intellectual disabilities. So once again, I'll say it. The bakery guys are not his real friends, but he still doesn't know that. That same night, I dreamed about my mother and father, only I couldn't see her face. It was all white and she was blurry. I was crying because we were in a big department store and I was lost and I couldn't find them, and I ran up and down the rows around all the big counters in the store. Then a man came and took me in a big room with benches and gave me a lollipop and told me a big boy like me shouldn't cry because my mother and father would come to find me. Anyway, that's the dream, and I got a headache and a big lump on my head and black and blue marks all over. Joe Carp said maybe I got rolled or the cop let me have it. I don't think policemen do things like that. But anyway, I don't think I'll drink whiskey anymore. So it looks like he got beat up, but we don't know who did it. Or if he really got beat up, maybe he just fell, but he had bruises and lumps all over him. March 29. I beat Algernon. I didn't even know I beat him until Bert Selden told me. Then the second time I lost because I got so excited. But after that, I beat him 8 more times. I must be getting smart to beat a smart mouse like Algernon. But I don't feel smarter. I wanted to race some more, but Bert said that's enough for one day. He let me hold Algernon for a minute. Algernon is a nice mouse, soft like cotton. He blinks, and when he opens his eyes, they're black and pink on the edges. I asked, can I feed him? Because I felt bad to beat him and I wanted to be nice and make friends. Bert said no, Algernon is a very special mouse with an operation like mine. He was the first of all the animals to stay smart so long, and he said that Algernon is so smart, he has to solve a problem with a lock that changes every time he goes in to eat, so he has to learn something new to get his food. That made me sad because if he couldn't learn, he wouldn't be able to eat and he would be hungry. I don't think it's right to make you pass a test to eat. How would Bert like to have to pass a test every time he wants to eat? I think I'll be friends with Algernon. That reminds me, Dr. Strauss says I should write down all my dreams and the things I think so when I come to his office I can tell them. I told him I don't know how to think yet, but he says he means more things like what I wrote about my mom and dad and about when I started school at Miss Kinnian's or anything that happened before the operation is thinking, and I wrote them in my progress report. I didn't know I was thinking and remembering. Maybe that means something is happening to me. I don't feel different, but I'm so excited I can't sleep. Dr. Strauss gave me some pink pills to make me sleep good. He says I got to get lots of sleep because that's when most of the changes happen in my brain. It must be true because Uncle Herman used to sleep in our house all the time when he was out of work on the old sofa in the parlor. He was fat, and it was hard for him to get a job because he used to paint people's houses and he got very slow going up and down the ladder. When I once told my mom I wanted to be a painter like Uncle Herman, my sister Norma said, yeah, Charlie's going to be the artist of the family. And Dad slapped her face and told her not to be so goddamn nasty to her brother. I don't know what an artist is, but if Norma got slapped for saying it, I guess it's not a nice thing. I always feel bad when Norma got slapped for being mean to me. When I get smart, I'll go visit her. So Norma said, yeah, Charlie's going to be the artist of the family. So when you say something like that in that tone, what is that called? Starts with an S. Sarcasm. So Norma was using sarcasm about Charlie, and that's what got her in trouble. But Charlie clearly does not understand sarcasm. And so he thought being an artist was a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing. She just was making fun of him being an artist. So that's what we learn about his sister. Okay, does she sound like a nice person? March 30. Tonight after work, Miss Kinnian came to the teaching room near the laboratory. She looked glad to see me, but nervous. She looks younger than I remembered her. I told her I was trying very hard to be smart. She said, I have confidence in you, Charlie, the way you struggled so much to read and write better than all the others. I know you can do it. At worst, you will have it for a little while, and you're doing something good for other retarded people. We started to read a very hard book. I never read such a hard book before. It's called Robinson Crusoe, about a man who gets marooned on a desert island. He's smart and figures out all kinds of things so he can have a house and food, and he's a good swimmer. Only I feel sorry for him because he's all alone and he has no friends. But I think there must be somebody else on the island because there's a picture of him with his funny umbrella looking at feet prints. I hope he gets a friend and not be so lonely. March 31. Miss Kinnian teaches me how to spell better. She says, look at a word and close your eyes and say it over and over again until you remember. I have lots of trouble with through, T-H-R-O-U-G-H. That you say through, T-H-R-E-W. So those are the same sounding word, but different words, different spellings. And enough and tough, that you don't say enu and to. You've got to say enough and tough. That's how I used to write it before. So he used to write enough, E-N-U-F-F, and tough, T-U-F-F, but now he knows how to spell it. That's how I used to write it before I started to get smart. I'm mixed up, but Miss Kinnian says, don't worry, spelling is not supposed to make sense. And that is absolutely true. The English language is extremely difficult. Progress Report 9. April 1. Everybody in the bakery came to see me today where I started my new job working by the dough mixer. It happened like this. Oliver, who works on the mixer, quit yesterday. I used to help him out before bringing the bags of flour over for him to put in the mixer. Anyway, I didn't know I knew how to work the mixer. It's very hard, and Oliver went to baker's school for 1 year before he could learn how to be an assistant baker. But Joe Carp, he's my friend, he said, Charlie, why don't you take over Oliver's job? Everybody on the floor came around and they were laughing. So he was starting to write laugh as L-A-F-F, and he stopped, crossed it out, and wrote laughing. And Frank Riley said, yes, Charlie, you've been here long enough. And he was about to spell enough incorrectly, and he fixed it. Go ahead. Gimpy ain't around, and he won't know you tried it. I was scared because Gimpy is the head baker and he told me never to go near the mixer because I would get hurt. Everyone said do it, except Fanny Burden, who said stop it, why don't you leave the poor man alone? Frank Riley said shut up, Fanny, it's April's Fool's Day, and if Charlie works on the mixer, he might fix it good so we will all have the day off. I said I couldn't fix the machine, but I could work it because I've been watching Oliver ever since I got back. I worked the dough mixer and everybody was surprised, especially Frank Riley. So his bakery friends were telling him to go work the mixer because they think that he'll break it and they can all have the day off. And they're playing a prank on him. So Charlie goes to use the mixer because he thought they were encouraging him, and he did it well. He correctly used the mixer. I worked the dough mixer and everybody was surprised, especially Frank Riley. Fanny Burden got excited because she said it took Oliver 2 years to learn how to mix the dough right, and he went to baker's school. Bernie Bate, who helps on the machine, said I did it faster than Oliver did and better. Nobody laughed. When Gimpy came back and Fanny told him, he got sore at me for working on the mixer, but she said watch him and see how he does it. They were playing him for an April Fool joke, and he fooled them instead. Gimpy watched, and I knew he was sore at me because he don't like when people don't do what he tells them, just like Professor Niemer. But he saw how I worked the mixer, and he scratched his head and said, I see it, but I don't believe it. Then he called Mr. Donner and told me to work it again so Mr. Donner could see it. I was scared he was going to be angry and holler at me, so after I finished, I said, can I go back to my own job now? I got to sweep out the front of the bakery behind the counter. Mr. Donner looked at me funny for a long time. Then he said, this must be some kind of April Fool's joke. You guys are playing on me. What's the catch? Gimpy said, that's what I thought. It was some kind of a gag. He limped all around the machine and he said to Mr. Donner, I don't understand it either, but Charlie knows how to handle it, and I got to admit he does a better job than Oliver. Everybody was crowded around and talking about it, and I got scared because they all looked at me funny and they were excited. Frank said, I told you there is something peculiar lately about Charlie. And Joe Carp says, yeah, I know what you mean. Mr. Donner sent everybody back to work, and he took me out to the front of the store with him. He said, Charlie, I don't know how you done it, but it looks like you finally learned something. I want you to be careful and do the best you can do. You got yourself a new job with a $5 raise. I said I don't want a new job because I like to clean up and sweep and deliver and do things for my friend, but Mr. Donner said, never mind your friends, I need you for this job. I don't think much of a man who don't want to advance. I said, what's advance mean? He scratched his head and looked at me over his glasses. Never mind that, Charlie. From now on, you work that mixer. That's advance. So now instead of delivering packages and washing out the toilets and dumping the garbage, I'm the new mixer. That's advance. Tomorrow I will tell Miss Kenyon. I think she'll be happy, but I don't know why Frank and Joe are mad at me. I asked Fanny, and she said, never mind those fools. This is April's Fool's Day, and the joke backfired and made them the fools instead of you. I asked Joe to tell me what was the joke that backfired, and he said, go jump in the lake. I guess they're mad at me because I worked the machine, but they didn't get the day off like they thought. Does that mean I'm getting smarter? April 3. Finished Robinson Crusoe. I want to find out more about what happens to him, but Miss Kenyon says that's all there is. Why? So we'll stop there for today. So, Charlie is advancing at the bakery. He's correcting his spelling. He has a curiosity. After Robinson Crusoe, he wanted to know what happens to him, but there was no ending to it. So he was curious. He's questioning authority. So there are still a lot of things he doesn't understand, but he is making such incredible progress in just a couple weeks. Okay, so that is our installment. That finished page 37, or 36, so tomorrow we'll start 37. All right, thanks guys.